One of the big news that came out of Sony's press conference this year, and of course, big deal for the guys at CCP, was that persistent shooter, that we agreed to call it, Dust514, would be exclusive on the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation Network. How did that happen?
So when we started looking at what we wanted to do in the console space, we quickly realized that it was going to be very beneficial for us to have a partner that we could work closely with, because really to have the kind of connection that we have between the PC and the console, you're going to have to break and bend quite a lot of the rules that you usually have to adhere to in that space. And after we spoke to Sony, it was something that they were interested in collaborating with us on.
Let's just summarize Dust514 for the people that might never even have heard about it before Hilmar, your CEO, suddenly steps up on the stage at the Sony press conference. What is Dust514?
Okay, so Dust514 is a persistent shooter. Then the key to this is that it's connected and literally exists inside the world of the PC MMO EVE Online. So our aim with this was to create a game where it was about more than just one battle after the next and climbing up and down a leaderboard and unlocking gear. We wanted to connect it to a meaningful, persistent universe and a world that's already been live for 8 years.
Then a quick introduction to EVE Online. How is it and how the link is actually supposed to work?
Well, I mean, the link, I mean, I could talk about EVE Online for hours. It's quite a complicated animal. It's, I mean, it's already got 400,000 players, you know, playing in a vast number of different roles. Really, the link between the two games is something that we've been working on for the last few expansions, from Dominion, when we started improving the visual and the art quality of all of the planets, through to Tyrannus, where we introduced the actual interaction with planets. And what we bring with Dust is conflict over those planetary bodies, so you can actually construct infrastructure on the surface there, and then you can fight over that. That at its most basic level, but I mean, you know, I would sort of stress the connection between the two games. The corporations, you know, within EVE and Dust aren't separate; they are one and the same. And the ISK and the in-game currency flows between the games. So we're talking, you know, I mean, one universe, one war. That's really sort of the focal point for us when we're making the decisions about how the games function together as one.
But looking at online shooters, people aren't really used to having that kind of persistence. What if let's say I'm a big fan of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I like shooting people online. I don't really, I suck at it. But what happens if I jump in and then all of a sudden all these corporations, there's a war going on in a completely different game? How do I fit in?
Into it. Well, I mean, funnily enough, there are actually EVE corporations that are already recruiting mercenaries for the release of the game. But you know, when you come in fresh, you've not played the game before. You know, you're not part of a corporation. So within high security space, which is a concept that exists within the EVE universe, there are NPC corporations that are generating matches for you to play in, so you can start to kind of learn the ropes. You start to earn ISK currency and buy yourself better gear and understand how you want to play. Now, the nice thing about the Battle Finder is that it uses the star map to help you locate battles, and it doesn't just have to connect you into NPC fights. As long as as long as you're sort of eligible and you're a good enough player, it can actually matchmake you into battles that are happening in nullsec space. If some corporations' members haven't turned up and they've turned to the mercenary community and said, "Hey, anyone want to come? We're going to pay you," and suddenly you've gone from the high security to the meaningful battles that are taking place between these two corporations in nullsec space. And then maybe you acquit yourself very well in that game, and that corporation says, "Well, why don't you come and join us?" And then suddenly you've been pulled into that world.
Let's geek out a moment. High sec and low sec, and nullsec, of course. How are those different kind of different security levels going to affect the game? Are we talking like NPCs, more or less single-player stuff in high sec, and then in null sec you better be with a corp, otherwise you'll be mincemeat?
Well, the game is all PvP. So within high security space, there's no like development of the planet. So you're not going to be able to run around stomping on each other's things. And then slowly you'll progress. Through this, we start sort of opening up more avenues for you. So you go into low sec, you start to form corporations, and you start to play more closely with Eve capsuleers. But then it's when you get into null sec that the gloves are off. There's no rules or restrictions or anything controlling you. It's all no holds barred.
And well, finally, maybe a question that the more politically involved players want to find out: how will you choose which places to place these planets that you can fight over? Is more or less looking at different choke points, or just finding empty spaces in the map, or just throwing darts and hoping not all of them end up in Northern Coalition space?
So, I mean, I think the important thing is, when we really sort of open the floodgates, where we've sort of built the community up to a point where we have social structures in place for new players to move into, and then we go live and let as many people play as they want to play. Then this isn't really a decision that we as CCP would take ourselves. That's a decision we'd much rather leave to our community of players. Like, how many of these planets are you actually going to fight over? Which ones of these do you perceive as being valuable? And we let that get dictated by the players.
All right. And finally, when is it coming out? Do you think, roughly? I see your boss is standing there staring, or your marketing officer is staring at you from over there. And of course, how will it be released?
Okay, so it's summer next year. So I'm not being completely specific, but and so it's download only over PSN. There'll be a cover charge for the game. That cover charge will immediately be turned into in-game credits that will allow you to buy items and gear within the game, and after that point it's essentially free to play. There is a microtransaction model in place for the game as well, but then since it's connected to Eve, you could quite easily, if you're a good player, be bankrolled from within Eve as well. So it's going to be very interesting economically, both within the game and outside of the game.
So no subscription?
No subscription.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.